Betacryl slabs are transported from the production plant to processing laboratories, passing through storage centers on robust wooden shelves. The number of slabs per pallet is determined by the size and thickness of the slabs and can vary from 10 to 50. Plus, the slabs are large and thick, and there will not be many on a single pallet. Forklifts are normally used to handle the pallets. Betacryl benches are designed for both side and front grips. The slab should always be stored horizontally. Once the base is placed on the floor, it is advisable to lift the slab by holding it vertically, especially for thicknesses below 9 mm, in order to avoid any accidental breakage. Place the slab on stand stores for manual machining, center for numerical control processing, and start processing operations. To dissect, cut, or trim a plate manually, it is advisable to use a sinking saw with an aluminum guide rail and carbide blade. Measure and mark the portion of the slab to be cut. Place the aluminum guide rail in the correct position, adjust the correct height of the blade, and proceed with the cutting. The cut remains crude and is not suitable for gluing and joining operations. It is advisable to always use the supplied splinters to connect the suction and wear protective goggles. To dissect, cut, or trim a numerical control slab, place the slab on the working center, adjust the suction cups, choose the correct milling cutter, and proceed with the programming for the automatic operation. Once the slab has been cut with a sinking saw, before gluing, it is advisable to trim the slab with a vertical milling machine equipped with a Whittier cutter. Adjust the height of the cutter and the copying disc. Place the vertical milling machine on the floor, arrange the caps in the correct position, connect the suction to the saw blade, and proceed with the trimming operation. Now the cut is clear and ready to be glued with another portion of Betacryl. This procedure is suitable and necessary for both vertical and horizontal joints. If cutting is performed in a work center, the previously described operation will not be necessary because the cutter used predisposes the already finished cutting line and makes it ready for gluing. Make sure that the glue has been stored in a cool environment and that the production date stated on the packaging is in conformity. Unscrew the protective caps. Insert the appropriate dose of the cartridge into the gun. Allow a small amount of glue to escape from the cartridge, pressing repeatedly on the trigger. Screw one of the two plastic mixers supplied and repeat the operation by pressing the trigger again to mix the two components inside the mixer. Discard the first quantity of glue and then proceed with gluing. To glue two sheets of Betacryl slab horizontally, arrange the two cutting lines as described above using a sink saw and a vertical milling machine in sequence. Glue the wooden scantlings with hot melt, hot glue, along the gluing line on both surfaces. These will serve to be able to bond two gluing lines, one to the other, by means of wooden straights, more commonly called clamps. We recommend placing a scantling after every 8 to 10 centimeters. Once the scantlings are glued, thoroughly clean the two gluing surfaces with uncolored alcohol or acetone and close the two portions of the slab to 2 centimeters from each other. After appropriately preparing the gun, see specific section, lay a continuous bundle of Betacryl adhesive along the entire surface to be glued. Repeat the operation a second time at the top of the gluing line. It is time to combine the two surfaces to be glued and to adhere them to each other using clamps. At this stage of the operation, it is advisable to tension the clamps in a light way so that you can control and perfect the flatness between a portion of Betacryl and the other. The more the two flaps are aligned in a planar way, the easier the polishing phase will be and the better the result. Once the correct alignment has been obtained, tighten the clamps more without exceeding. Excessive tightening will result in a total leakage of the glue and therefore a bonding that could be imperfect. Allow the glue to harden completely without touching the gluing cord for about 25 to 30 minutes. The waiting time can vary depending on the temperature and humidity of the air. Proceed to the polishing operations as described in the specific section. To glue a side or frontal edge to a Betacryl slab, arrange the two gluing lines as described above using a sink saw and a vertical milling machine in sequence. Carefully clean the two gluing surfaces with uncolored alcohol and close the two portions of the slab 2 centimeters to each other. After appropriately preparing the gun, see specific section, lay 2 continuous bands of 2-component Betacryl glue along the entire edge of the board to be glued. It is time to move the edge to the surface to be glued and make them. Adhere to each other using the clamps. At this stage of the operation, it is advisable to tension the clamps in a light way so that you can control and refine the edge and plane alignment. The more the two flaps are aligned, the easier the polishing phase will be and the better the result. Once the correct alignment has been obtained, tighten the clamps more without exceeding. Excessive tightening would result in total leakage of the glue and therefore a bonding that could be imperfect. Allow the glue to harden for about 25 to 30 minutes. The waiting time can vary depending on the temperature and humidity of the air. Proceed to the polishing operations as described in the specific section. To glue the tub to the top, it is necessary to prepare both the plane and the tub properly. Place the slab on the work stands with the B side upwards. Draw the shape of the tub with a pencil, internal measurements, on the plane. In the correct position using the measurements indicated in the technical manual, the previously made template or the drawings in the DWG supplied on request. Do not forget to consider the space for the mixer housing if expected and to keep at least 50 millimeters from the front edge. For correct gluing, the shape of the tube must be designed smaller on each side by 1 centimeter. Once the shape is drawn, drill a hole in each of the 4 corners with the cordless drill using a 9mm or greater tip. Cut the material from hole to hole and complete the setup for the tub. Place the tub in the correct position. Glue, hot glue, 8 scantlings of wood on the surface of the plane with the glue. At the 4 angles and the 4 halves of the sides of the tub. These will serve to create a seat for quick positioning of the tub at the time of actual gluing. Remove the tub again. Handle the gluing surfaces on the floor and sink, verifying the bicomponent planarity of it, with thin-grained abrasive paper, 150 to 180 grit, and clean them with colorless denatured alcohol. After appropriately preparing the gun, see specific section, lay 2 continuous bands of 2-component Betacryl glue along the entire surface of the edge of the tub to be glued. Reposition the tub into the housing created with the wooden scantlings and tighten the 2 elements with a metal clamp. Wait for the 2-phase adhesive to polymerize. The hardening time may vary depending on the temperature and humidity of the air. Turn the complete top of the tub with the A side facing up. Set up a vertical milling machine with a radial Whittier cutter and a copier disc. Adjust the height of the cutter and the copier disc. Place the vertical milling machine on the floor. Arrange the guards in the correct position. Connect the suction cup to the chip pickup and proceed with the trimming operation of the sinkhole. This operation will refine the perfectly flush plan with the vertical side of the sink, creating a single seamless surface. Proceed with polishing operations using an orbital belt sander equipped with silicon carbide abrasive discs with 120 to 360 grid grain. Place the slab on the work stands with the A side facing up. Plot the template of the cooking plane, interior measures, on the top with a pencil in the correct position. Do not forget to keep at least 50 millimeters from the front edge. Once the template has been drawn, Drill a hole in each of the 4 corners with the drill using a 9mm or larger tip. Cut the material for the hole and complete the setup for the cooking plane. In order to eliminate any weak points, create grooves with a diameter of about 30mm at each of the 4 corners using a vertical milling machine with a jedna cutter. Create 4 reinforcement elements to double the plane thickness near the 4 corners, gluing them with Betacryl bicomponent glue. Wait for the bicomponent adhesive to polymerize. Finish the plane using a vertical milling machine with the jedna cutter and copier disc. Adjust the height of the cutter and the copier disc. Place the vertical milling cutter on the floor. Arrange the guards in the correct position. Connect the suction to the chip pickup and proceed with the trimming operation of the angular reinforcements of the cooking plane's hole. To properly protect the working surface from the heat generated by the hot cooking surface, lay the ceramic fiber tape over the entire inner perimeter of the hole. Repeat the same operation with aluminum insulating tape, and the hole is ready to house the cooking plane. For the final polishing of the plane, use an orbital belt sander with silicon carbide abrasive discs. For opaque finishing, use discs with grits from 120 to 360 grids. For a glossy finish instead, use discs from 120 to 600 grids. Pass on the entire surface of the plane slowly and as smoothly as possible with circular movement, first from right to left and then from top to bottom. It is advisable to use an eccentric rotary orbital sander with a flat rigid pad for planar and soft surfaces for curved surfaces and suction. If there is a joint to be polished, pay utmost attention to the movements of the sander on the floor in order to avoid dips and depressions. Repeat the operation with all the silicon carbide abrasive discs required to obtain the degree of opacity chosen, and repeat the operation with the Scotch Brite sponge discs for the final finish. For large size planes, use a 4-pad rotator orbital sander. The working times are reduced considerably and the result will be more uniform. Even if the plane has a medium or high amount of damage, whether deep scratches or cracks, Betacryl allows total repairs. Highlight the scratch or crack in the entirety of its extension by means of a vertical milling machine equipped with a straight, conical, or 45-degree cutter. According to the habits of the different transformers, make a depth of 8 to 9 mm deep on the 12mm thick material from the outer edge and 10 mm beyond the total size of the scratch or crack. Set up a thick 12mm, 1 mm wider than the milled, and longer than 20 mm. Work gently with 220 grit abrasive paper until it snaps well into the mill, leaving no airtight. Carefully clean the 2 glue surfaces with colorless denatured alcohol, and after appropriately preparing the gun, see specific section, apply 2 continuous bundles of Betacryl glue along the entire surface of the piece to be glued. Finally, press the latter against the seat. Excessive tightening would result in the total leakage of the glue and consequently lead to gluing of the piece that could be perceptible. Allow the glue to harden for about 25 to 30 minutes. The waiting time can vary depending on the temperature and humidity of the air. Proceed to carrying out polishing operations as described in the specific section. Betacryl can be used to obtain shapes with an accentuated depth, thanks to molding with hydraulic presses in specific aluminum molds. The heating of the slab is carried out by means of special ovens. The oven, equipped with heating plates and air circulation for a uniform heating of the slab, enables softening of the material to be molded. It is necessary to bring the oven up to a considerable temperature and allow the slab to warm up according to the recommended timing and methods. After extracting the slab, place it on the mold in the correct position and slowly close the hydraulic press. Wait until the artifact is completely cooled down and then remove it from the mold. Betacryl can also be molded in large wood molds that conform to the material for gravity.